Now, this recipe, Rosie, has absolutely nothing to do with nutrition. It's all about flavour and energy. That's what it's all about.
Great.
Well, energy is part of nutrition as well, and this is a guaranteed way of giving you energy to get through the rest of the day. You like that, don't you?
I really do. I'm all about energy. 100%.
Well, maybe not the sort of energy that I put in here, but butter's full of energy, and this is Australian butter. Every time you buy Australian butter, you're helping Australian farmers. Really, really important. 150 grams of salted butter into the pot here. If you're using unsalted butter, maybe just add a little pinch of salt. But normally when I make a cake, as I've said before, I like to add a pinch of salt. Using salted butter means I don't have to add that extra salt. You like that, don't you?
Great. Conserve energy in that way then.
Conserving energy, we like that. While that butter's melting, I'm going to grab 2 organic free-range eggs and I'm going to break them into the bowl here.
You're going to get me working?
You are going to work really hard for this. You are going to, work up. You're going to use some energy so you'll be ready for that next load of energy.
Alrighty.
I'll pop that out of the way there. Start whisking those eggs. While you're whisking that, Rosie, I'm going to pour in 2/3 of a cup of lovely Australian milk into your eggs there. There we go.
Lovely stuff.
2/3 of a cup. And this is lovely fresh milk. Now, Rosie, I love the sound of butter melting. Now, I've got that last little tiny bit there. Just stir it around like this to get it to melt. And then once you've got it melted, I'm going to pour it into our mixture here. Vanilla, one of my favourite things. We've got some beautiful vanilla here. Take the lid off like this. Now, I would normally measure it out. Maybe a tablespoon is always delicious, but oh my goodness, I slipped a little bit more. This is great vanilla.
No judging from me.
This is great
Love
vanilla.
that stuff.
And a little drop extra is only going to improve the flavour. Now, this is quite important. You've mixed together all the wet ingredients. They've come together beautifully. And this is where we start to add the dry ingredients. Caster sugar. I have 1.5 cups of caster sugar, packed full of nutritious energy. Now, if you've got plain flour, you can use plain flour, but you need to add some baking powder to it. But I've got some really nice self-raising flour, and this will give me that light, fluffy cake sort of feeling.
Made for cakes, that
Exactly.
stuff, yeah.
And the lift as well is what you need. So I need 1.5 cups of that. Now, I like to use my 1/2 cup measurement here because I know I can get it into the actual box. Yeah, you like that, don't you?
That's right.
There we go. Scoop that last little bit out there and you make sure you sort of level it out in the box, and that way you don't get flour all over the place. Look at you.
Technique change. Do get a bit sore.
Well, there's a couple of ways of wishing. You go around that way, around that way.
I do it all.
Exactly. While you're doing that, now I'm going to add the cocoa. I'm going to add 2/3 of a cup of cocoa, and I will ask you to slow down a little bit because cocoa is very, very light, and if you add it while you're vigorously whisking, it will go everywhere.
It was a CrossFit or something, sorry.
It will go everywhere. So I'll just pop that in there as well. 2/3 of a cup goes in there. And I've got a little bit of baking powder as well. I've got a teaspoon of baking powder to give me that extra bit of lift. There we go. In it goes like that. And we've got a lovely batter that's just coming together. Now, would you like me to take over from you just a little bit?
That'd be
now,
great.
at this bit, it's great to have a friend to take over the whisking. You make sure you go round the side there to get all those bits and pieces. And if you've done it properly, which you have done really, really well, Rosie, this is a great-looking cake batter, and it's all come together. I've got my 2 cake tins, springform cake tins on the side here. They do pop open when they're ready. I've got my baking paper on the bottom, and I've sprayed the outside. You can also brush it with butter or brush it with a little bit of oil, or you could even put a collar of baking paper around the outside and that will make sure that it doesn't stick. Sometimes I'll just grab the butter like this and rub it around. It looks great, doesn't it? Now, with the spatula is what you need, and I'll get you to hold it over the bowl there. The trick here is, Rosie, to get the same amount in both cake tins. So I'll let you pour it away, and we'll see if we can guesstimate it so it goes in the bottom there. I reckon that's about half in there, and I'll just go to the other one. There we go. Now, it doesn't look like there's much batter in there, but these will rise up about, 4 or 5 centimetres at least.
Extra baking powder, wasn't it?
Exactly. Just a little bit extra gives you that, that beautiful amount of lift. I mean, the self-raising flour's got enough lift in it already, but I just like a little bit of a buff in there. So I'll take that out there. And you can see, Rosie, I've left you a little bit of batter in the bottom there. Now, I try and smooth it around nice and evenly like this, so you make sure you get it to all the edges there so it's fairly level.
Ooh.
And then just make sure that when you do this stage, you just have a little taste of it there because the flavour could change, couldn't it?
It could change, yes.
There we go. Now, these are going to go into the oven at 175 degrees Celsius. They'll take about 25 to 30 minutes to cook. They'll puff up a little bit. Be able to test them with a skewer to make sure the skewer comes out nice and clean. We'll take them out of the oven, let them rest and cool down, and then we'll make the chocolate frosting that will bring it all together. OK, Rosie, you grab that one and I'll get the oven door. Into the oven they go. Rosie, the cakes have cooled down. I've stacked them here on my little lazy Susan here. It's like a steering wheel. You can drive that cake home. You like that, don't you? It looks good like that. And I know that you would want to tuck into it straight away,
I'm
wouldn't
happy
you?
that that's my kind of cake, just not much happening to it, but I know you're going to make something crazy
Rosie,
extra.
I couldn't do that to you, Rosie. I have to make sure that you get over that 4 o'clock hump, and this just won't be enough. The only way you'll get through that is to have the frosting that goes with it. So I've got my Maggi Mix over there. We're going to start, and I'm going to show you how to make the best frosting ever. I've got, here you go, grab one of these.
Do you need both of these?
Of course. You know, why have one packet of butter when you can have two? So I'm going to take this out of the packet here like this. This is 500 grams of salted butter, which I don't mind using at all. That's soft. See how soft it is?
Nutritionist just died.
There we go.
Oh, 2 died.
What a wonderful way to go. There we go. And make sure with a palette knife you can get every single bit of that butter off
You
there.
can't scrape that one.
Just the last little bit over the top there, and then wipe it down the side there. Now, into that, I'm going to put in 2 tablespoons of maple syrup because I love maple syrup, one of the most delicious things in the entire world. I think that might have been a little bit more than 2 tablespoons in there. I don't know, but...
I've stopped watching.
Exactly. You know how I do my recipes, don't you, Rosie? I always put a little bit extra for that extra bit of flavour. Screw the lid on that. Vanilla bean paste, one of the most delicious things that it will make it even more luscious. 3 cups of icing sugar go in there, Rosie. You can do that.
Yep.
And I have 2 cups of cocoa that go in there as well. There we go. Pour that in there like that. And the only thing you need to do now, Rosie, is pop the lid onto that and then press the button, let it whir together till you get a lovely, lovely icing that comes out of it. Press that button, Rosie, and let the love happen. Rosie, ready to go. We take 1 small scoop of chocolate frosting, pop it onto there like that, and then with a palette knife. And this is why I have this little lazy Susan thing here, because it just makes it easier to spoon it around.
We all need one of those at home, don't we?
Exactly. It's a little pro tip if you are. They're easy to buy from a homeware store, but they make putting a cake together so much easier.
Should I get ready then?
Go for it. Go for it. There we go. Pop it
I
on.
feel like that's the time.
Now, if you want to, you can get some espresso coffee or some liqueur and pop it onto the sponge. But, you know, just that frosting and the sponge alone, I think is going to be enough to put this whole thing together beautifully.
This is decadent, Adrian.
Well, that's a word you could use. It's delicious. Deliciously decadent, there's a word. And you can see you've got a nice little layer of chocolate all the way through there. And as I've said many, many times, if you're not invited to someone's house and you want to pop around there, bake yourself a cake and show up, because there's no way they're going to turn you away. If you rock up with a cake like this, sure, Richo, come on in.
That is good manners, I
There we go.
will say.
There we go, spoon that around. And one of the tricks is to let this sit in a cool place just to set, because we've got this butter frosting here, and if it sets for a couple of minutes, you know, probably half an hour or so in the fridge, it'll set beautifully and hold together. But at this stage here, it is quite soft and delicate, so we'll just put it together. Last little bit of frosting there. And you can see I've got the right amount of frosting to go all the way around it.
Perfect.
Now, if you wanted to get really sort of funny here, you could, you know, pipe some of it on, or maybe make a ganache, which is chocolate and a little bit of cream, and pour that around the outside. You could get some chopped pistachio nuts, some strawberries, some raspberries, some coulis, just about anything you wanted to. You could get some of that and pop it on top. But you know what? I think it's perfect just the way it is. A little bit of cocoa around the outside like that to cover up any imperfections that could be there, but we know there's no imperfections. And you know, Rosie, it could be late at night, midnight, the storm's coming through, the lightning's flashing, and you hear a knock on the door, and there's Richo with a nice cake like this. Would you open the door?
You're not coming in.
Really?
No.
What if I had a glass of wine as well?
Absolutely not.
Really?
Nope.
Okay. I reckon this cake, I'll eat it myself then.